Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. So what would it be like to be born blind in a tiny little town in Alabama, only to grow up to become one of Nashville's most prominent and most loved session players, playing on albums for people like Brad Paisley, Blake Shelton, Martina McBride, Bob Seger, Alan Jackson, Rascal Flats, Carrie Underwood, Lionel Richie, Josh Turner, Darius Rucker, and Alison Krauss, just to name a few. Well, such is the story and the life of my guest today, Gordon Mote. Gordon really, truly is one of the most loved and prominent keyboard players here in town, and he's won 2 Academy of Country Music Awards for Top Piano Keyboard Player, as well as 2 Music Row Magazine Instrumentalist of the Year Awards for playing on the most top 10 albums. Gordon is also a solo artist, and since stepping into that space, he's recorded an impressive body of work, 3 instrumental and 7 vocal albums, including the Dove Award-nominated If You Could Hear What I See back in 2004. Ironically, part of Gordon's appeal is related to something that he can't fully experience, which are videos. In addition to his presence on the wildly popular Gaither Homecoming video series, Gordon has more than 200 individual video performances that have been viewed more than 3.3 million times. He invited me over to his porch recently to share a cup of coffee and to talk about his life and his career, memories of traveling with his also blind brother, singing in churches, and just the memory of jumping up on the piano bench when he was 2 or 3 years old to play Jesus Loves Me without any training whatsoever. And the rest is history. Gordon is truly a Nashville treasure, and he shares some wonderful stories, including one about a run-in with Faith Hill that he had that I think you're going to find very interesting in just a few moments when we get to the interview. If you're a regular listener to the Song Revolution, you know that we exist to empower you as Christian songwriters, to help you get your message out, to write the kind of worship songs, testimonial songs, and just to share your stories in music the way that you long to do. Please go over and check out everything at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, especially our NCS membership. You can join for as little as $14.99 a month, and you can find some great resources there to encourage and inspire you. We offer monthly master classes that are live and interactive with clinicians that will help you fulfill your call. So, without any further ado, please welcome to the Song Revolution my new friend and incredible musician, Gordon Mote. Gordon Mote, man, you made a ton of music, dude. You've been all over this thing. What is going on with you today?
This is us right here, right?
This is it.
We're live.
We're doing it.
We're on the air.
We're here.
How about that? Unbelievable.
I know,
they
right?
said it couldn't happen.
But they were wrong.
That's right. So
yeah.
Should we tell them where we are?
Do it. Yeah.
We're out here. This is one of my favorite places in the world. My screened-in porch. I get out here and listen to the birds and get inspired. Be out here in the outdoors. Listen to a whole lot of sports out here. Love baseball. Nothing quite like hearing a baseball game. When I come home from the studio, my first stop is this porch. You know, you've been inside all day and get out here and you turn a baseball. I'm a huge Atlanta Braves fan.
Oh, yeah?
I've been since I was a kid. All the losing years, you know. And so I'm a huge Braves fan. Love baseball, period, but huge Braves fan. So I don't miss too many Braves games. If you find me in the studio and the Braves are playing, it's very likely I've got the game on my phone. So
in one ear, right?
Yeah, exactly right. But it's great to be with you on the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Gordon. Well, I know we're going to reminisce some about your amazing career, but I just have to say, you could make a career as a barista. This fancy coffee
Well, coffee is another one of my happy places. I love it, and we've always got when you come to the Mote House, we've always got a good cup of coffee ready. 2 minutes away.
Yeah,
we can have it.
It's nice, man. It gets strong. It's black, just straight up.
Yes,
so
sir.
Good.
It's a good way to drink it. Now, my sweet precious wife, she likes to put a little bit of decoration in hers.
Mm-hmm.
She might put a little stevia or a little something.
Yeah.
Maybe a little cream of some kind. She's real health conscious, so she's real careful about that. And but she likes a little decoration in it. But however you like it, we can make it happen here. That's one of our spiritual gifts here at the Mote House.
It's good. Caffeination. I got the spirit of caffeination on me right now.
That's right. That's exactly right. Gotta have it.
Gotta have it. Well, it's propping me up right now, man. Sitting on this beautiful porch, hanging out with you, and as I said in the pre-roll, you are just one of the most successful, amazing session players, keys, producing. All up in the country thing, all up in the Christian thing. I mean, we can't even name everybody's albums that you've played on. And so take us through a little bit about that. And I know that all this kind of started when you were like 3.
That's right.
And jumped up on the piano and surprised everybody. You don't have to tell, decades worth, but how did all this get started?
Well, you're right. Thanksgiving Day, we were at my grandmother's house. And all of a sudden, they hear the piano. They wonder who it could be. And when they come in, they see it's me. They can't believe what they're seeing because I'm barely big enough to reach the keys sitting on that bench. And I'm playing Jesus Loves Me, which really is the simplest way to explain the gospel to somebody. Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. How much simpler can it be? And how much more precious can it be? And so, ever since that day, I've tried to get better and learned a lot from a lot of people. Grew up listening to so many different kinds of music because I loved so many different kinds of music. I've been influenced in many, many genres of music because that's all I did when I was a kid. I just listened. One of the reasons I listened so much is because I was a huge fan of radio. I loved radio. We had a little radio station at my house. We had a guy that built me a transmitter. I had a board, and I thought I wanted to do that.
No kidding.
And I did do that for a while. I did the afternoon drive at a station in the town that I went to, Jacksonville State University. Sure. I went there for 3 years. Did afternoon drive at a contemporary Christian station. It was a big AM 50,000 watt. AM stereo, clear channel, so it, got everywhere. We were in so many markets, and back then, AM radio was still something that, people would listen to, especially AM stereo, because it sounded so much better. And
wait, there was AM stereo?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was AM stereo for a while. That was kind of a big deal, for a minute. The new technology, but it never really took off like they hoped it would.
Right.
It's kind of like HD radio now, with the FM stations having different frequencies, different channels. That hasn't taken off like they hoped it would either. But anyway, I guess I'm digressing. But I'm a huge fan of radio. And I remember the first time that I traveled with Lee Greenwood, that was when I graduated from Belmont. I transferred from Jacksonville State to Belmont.
Right.
And that's an interesting story, too. A friend, when I was at JSU, said, hey, I have a connection to the Muscle Shoals producer, Jimmy Johnson, who, is a legend in our business.
Right.
And produced songs like Old Time Rock and Roll. Do I need to say any more?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hook did all those records. Paul Simon, Rolling Stones, many.
Yeah.
In anything that was done in the Shoals. And Rick Hall was another big producer in the Shoals. But those guys were the big dogs. But anyway, he said, man, I can get you an appointment with Jimmy Johnson. I think it'd be so cool if you could play and sing some of your songs for him. And so that I didn't think that'd be able to happen, but it actually ended up happening. We drove to Muscle Shoals. I met with him, sat down in his office, just talked to him for a while, and he said, well, sing me something. Play me something. So I sang him a couple songs, and he said, well, son, he said, you're at Jacksonville State University, right? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, he said, that's a good place for you to be. He said, but I imagine you're probably the best musician there. He said, you need to move to Nashville, Tennessee. He said, and everybody around you will be way better than you for a couple of years, and then you'll be way better than them. And that's what he said, and that gave me a lot of confidence. I'm still not sure that ever happened. I think, a lot of people in this town are way better than me, but he was very kind, and so we talked a little bit, and he said, you need to go to Belmont. And I explained to him that I didn't think my family could afford it and that I had a scholarship at JSU and blah, blah, blah. He said, well, I can get you an audition for a scholarship. I know people at Belmont. Bob Malloy is a great friend of mine, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, sir, I think the auditions have already happened. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, son, I don't think you know what a big deal I am. I can make this happen for you. And so anyway, one thing led to another, and I ended up at Belmont where I met my precious wife, Kimberly. We've been married, it'll be 27 years here in just a bit here.
Congratulations.
And we're still in love, and I'm so grateful. God has been so good to me to give me my soulmate. And we have 3 children. Ashton is 11, who you met a minute ago. Parker's 19. He's a freshman at Samford University. Or actually be a sophomore when school starts again. And then my daughter Samantha is 22, and she's getting married next May.
Wow.
May 31st to someone you might be familiar with, or marrying into a family you might be familiar with. Her fiance's name is Jack Cottrell, who's the son of Travis and Angela Cottrell.
I wondered, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And,
wow.
Kimberly and I went to school with Travis at Belmont and knew Travis and Angela. And so it's kind of interesting and cool that it's all come full circle. But anyway, to get back to my story, I ended up at Belmont, graduated from Belmont, met a lot of people, experienced a lot of cool things, and I made a connection to a wonderful teacher who heard that Lee Greenwood was looking for a piano player. And she called me and said, would you be interested in auditioning? Well, my dad was a huge Lee Greenwood fan, and I liked him too. I thought he had some killer songs. I always thought he was a great singer. And so anyway, one thing led to another, and he showed up at my senior recital unbeknownst to me. I couldn't see him out in the audience. Everybody else knew he was there, but I didn't. And it's a good thing. I would have been a nervous wreck. But anyway, 2 days after graduation, he called and he said, well, buddy, he said, I'm really impressed with you. I'd been to his house and sang and played with him. And he said, you want to go out on the road with me? And so a couple weekends after I graduated from Belmont, I was out on the road with Lee Greenwood. And that was an amazing experience and a friendship that has lasted all these many years. We're still great friends. And he's still one of the most talented people I know. He's 75 and still sings like he's 25.
No kidding.
And I don't understand it. He is a perfect example of, I believe God does have some favorites. Because he is so good. I heard him on the Opry the other night. I love the Opry. I listen to the Opry all the time. And I heard him on the Opry the other night singing Ring on Her Finger, Time on Her Hands, and I just was just blown away. And I just texted him, and I was like, you are not right, my friend. But through Lee, I got my opportunity to start playing in the studio. He had a little publishing company, and he would suggest to his writers, hey, you ought to give this kid a chance to play on your demo. And some of them did, and that led to me playing on more demos for other people that had other publishing deals. And one thing led to another, and I started playing on independent projects, demos, custom albums, all kinds of things. And it all led to me getting a call to play. Now, I'd played on a few master recordings, but nothing huge. But I got the call when Pig Robbins got really sick. I got the call to go play on a new album that Alan Jackson was making. And that album contained a song called Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? And that became the first #1 song that I was ever on. And that album had 4 #1 singles, sold 5 million, and my phone started ringing.
I guess so.
And some of the big things that really helped me in my career, right away I started playing, because that's really country.
Right.
But I also got to play on some stuff that was a little more contemporary. I played on so many of those early Rascal Flats songs that had those piano intros. And so that really helped me kind of make my way, up that proverbial ladder, and worked with some incredible producers right off. The Scott Hendricks, who's still a great friend of mine, and I still work for Scott a lot. We've done Dan and Shay together recently, Blake Shelton. Scott's still in the thick of it. And the Dan and Shay thing has done really well for him. And I've played on, all their stuff. Scott and I, like I said, we've remained great friends. Guys like Paul Worley and Keith Stegall, and I worked with Dan Huff. I started working with Dan. And so Frank Rogers. Frank and I knew each other at Belmont. And, of course, Frank was producing Brad Paisley and Josh Turner and Darius Rucker and Trace Atkins and, all these. And so I started working with Frank, and Frank is one of my very best friends in this business too. And Frank is a great songwriter. He's a great producer. He's a great businessman. He just kind of works all angles, and that's kind of what I want to do, and that's kind of what I have done. I hope that they say the same about me as they say about somebody like Frank. Whenever you're working with Frank, you know that the person you're working for is just a normal person. They're just cool and great and cool to hang out with. And I think you attract the kind of people to yourself that you work with that maybe that you are, your kind of personality. And so that's what I hope people say about me. I always want to have good people around, and always try to make the recording process a fun thing. And all those producers I named, I think, are some of the very best. Mark Bright is another one. He was producing Flats at that time, and he did Carrie Underwood. I worked with her, and he's done some huge records. And he is another great songwriter, So a lot of these producers are great songwriters as well. And I don't know of a better song guy that's not a songwriter than Scott Hendricks. I mean, so I've learned so much from all these producers. Stan Huff is he's amazing. He's brilliant. All these guys are brilliant, and they have different things they bring to the table. And so I've tried to kind of be a sponge around those guys and learn everything I can about not just producing, not just great songs, not just those things, but how to get a group of guys in a room and get the very best out of them you can.
Wow. Well, dude, I'm just praying that you're going to get a break someday for your career. I mean, you're so talented. And
well, it's so funny because I had a conversation with Dan not long ago, and I said, at the end of every year, I think my career's over. I think my phone's not going to ring anymore, and I think I'm done. And he's like, me too. So I think we all are really insecure, and the business has changed so much. I don't think anybody works as much as they used to. And so much of that has to do with the way people are paid.
Right.
I'm sure you've had this conversation with a lot of people that have been on your podcast. But so many people listen to music and they don't pay for it. And if that trend continues and they don't figure out a way to monetize all these things and pay producers and songwriters and musicians and all these people fairly, people still be listening to music for free, but there won't be much music to listen to.
I know, right?
And kids get in their basements and they can put together music, and that's awesome. I applaud all these kids that can do things, and we've had to learn how to make records on smaller budgets and no budgets, and we've kind of had to learn the art of that. But if the trend continues, there's going to be a lot less music for people to listen to, and I don't think people be happy about that. So we've got to get that right.
Absolutely. Well, you obviously, have had some amazing opportunities right out of Belmont with Lee Greenwood, all these things you've been describing. But take us back, if you will, a little more to the beginnings. I mean, if it's not obvious, if the folks haven't read the show notes or listened to the intro, you were born blind.
Yes.
And so this isn't something that just happened. This has been your whole life. And so would you consider that a handicap or a blessing? And
well, probably there have been times that I've considered it both. It's when my mom and dad were just, and they still are, they're still alive and still healthy. They're just amazing people. And my brother and I were both born blind. My brother is working for a computer software company. And he also, if you listen to much college sports, which I do, we're big Alabama fans around here. I was born in Gadsden, Alabama, and called home Atala, Alabama, which, right there by Gadsden. But my brother, it works for a company called IMG. So now it's Learfield IMG College Audio. They've merged. But he actually, if you listen, I think right now he's doing UAB. So if you listen to UAB football or basketball, you hear my brother doing all the pregame, the postgame, the break-ins. Cool. Yeah, he does it all, and he's amazing. His IQ is just off the charts.
Is he like the voiceover?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's so talented. He's crazy how talented he is. But anyway, his name's Michael, and. But yeah, my mom and dad, they never allowed us to allow our blindness to be a deciding factor. They were always encouraging us to be independent and learn how to do it. And we were some of the first students to ever mainstream into the public school system. And that came with a lot of challenges. Imagine, if you will, if you were in school and you didn't have a book. You didn't have the book that all the other kids had, but yet you were still tested the same as the other kids. So you had to memorize. Now, sometimes you might have the book in Braille, but it was the previous edition, so they didn't match up. And sometimes you might have the book on a cassette tape, but try to find page 137 on a cassette. I dare you.
Gosh.
See if you. So it did have a lot of challenges. Now, our teachers were very patient, but it still was very difficult. And now with the internet, we didn't have that then, but now with the internet, it's a little bit more of an even playing ground for people who have any kind of handicap, but especially people who are blind. I have a screen reader on my computer that reads everything, and I use hotkeys, and I'm pretty tech savvy. I love gadgets. You were kind of marveling while ago over my iPhone. All iPhones come with something called VoiceOver. You can activate it if you want to in your accessibility settings. But if you do, it kind of changes the way everything works for a sighted person. You're tapping and you're doing everything with your fingers. You can't just touch and click.
Right.
But yeah, I've tried to always. But what does cause any kind of handicap for any person to get in the way is the person who is looking to hire someone. A lot of times they're not sure. They may be unfamiliar with, they may have never met a blind person before. And so I'm grateful that Hargus Pig Robbins, who's not just in the Musicians Hall of Fame, but he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Great musician. He was also blind, a piano player. So he paved the way a little bit. But even then, most people said, well, there can't be another one. There can't be anybody like Pig. How's he going to know the chart? So I go into the studio while everybody else is looking at it, while they listen to the demo, everybody's looking at their chart. I'm memorizing it. So when I hear it one time, I go in and play it. There's a funny story that happened one time. We were working with Faith Hill years ago, and one Monday morning we came in, and I hadn't worked with Faith very much at this time. And we came in, and they played the first song, and everybody, we were talking. I mean, I was listening, but we were talking. The Titans had played the night before or the day before, and it was just, you live and die with the Titans, and this particular Sunday was a dying with the Titans. And we were talking about, Monday morning armchair quarterback, just talking about all the silly play calls and all that. And so then we go play the song. Well, it was a pretty complicated ballad, as I recall. And we go play the song. We get this amazing track. She's just singing her tail off as she does. Just a killer song. And I come in and I'm standing there listening to playback, and guys are fixing their parts and whatever. And she comes up to me and she gives me a big hug and she said, I was really mad at you for a minute. And I thought, Faith Hill is telling me she was mad at me. This must be this is going to be good. And I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, when you came in, we were playing the song and all you guys were talking, but they can see the chart. You don't have a chart. You need to be memorizing it. And you're the ringleader. You're just talking about the Titans and all this stuff. And then you go in and you play it perfectly. She said, I don't understand that. I wish I could do that. And to which I said, I wasn't thinking about it, but this is what I said. And this has kind of followed me around all of my career. I said, well, I wish I could drive. We all have something. But that's a story that's followed me around. But, I guess the moral of the story is we all have something that could handicap us from doing what God's called us to do, right? Mm-hmm. We all have hang-ups. I mean, I have lots of hang-ups, don't get me wrong. But I believe that if God has a plan for your life, and we all know that he does, he's going to give you the tools you need to accomplish his plan for you. And he certainly has helped me in that regard.
So if you don't consider your blindness your greatest hurdle in life, is there something that you would consider your greatest hurdle? And could you share how you might have overcome it?
It's difficult to do what we do in such a negative surrounding. And so I wish we had the visionaries that, I want to be that visionary. I want to be that guy that says, hey, we should take a chance on this. This could be killer. This could be great. This could get us in the money. This is something that people want. I think most importantly, especially in Christian music, I think the message has to be first. And if we are all about the message, I think God will take care of the rest. I really do. Good
stuff. Gordon Mote, we'll be right back.
We're going to take just a quick break and talk about something that I think is going to be very valuable for you as a Christian songwriter. So check it out.
Do you feel like God's given you a bunch of songs, but you don't know what to do with them? Do you feel like you've got a real call on your life to write, but you're clueless about where to start? Or maybe you've got writer's block and you're wondering if you'll ever get the creative juices flowing again. Well, we've got you covered with NCS membership. NCS membership is all about community and how to grow in this calling you feel deep inside to be heard. We get it. We know that you just want to honor God with your talents and be a good steward of what he's given you. And that's why NCS membership could be your next right step to grow, learn, be challenged, get connected, and ultimately fulfill your dreams to glorify God and reach others with the same passion you feel. It's designed to help you tell your story and to reach listeners who will love your songs. With your NCS membership, you'll receive 24/7 access to valuable masterclasses on topics such as modern hymn writing, worship writing, song form, lyric development, and recording home demos, as well as discounts for other NCS products and a deep connection into a community of creatives who get you. There are a lot of songwriters out there, so you need to be the best you can be to stand out, be heard, and become the songwriter you were born to be. Just go to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com now to check out all the great benefits of becoming part of a decidedly Christian community of songwriters from all over the world. NCS membership, your next right step to being heard.
Well, I just hope that you'll take advantage of that and check it out. All right? We bring you good stuff here on the Song Revolution podcast. So back to our episode.
So I'm here today with Gordon Mote, who is an incredibly successful, multi-decade studio musician, songwriter, producer with the Gaithers. This guy's had over 200 video performances with the Gaithers that have been seen 3.3 million times the last time his bio was updated. And Gordon was born blind and hadn't been able to see any of them.
That's true.
How does that feel, man?
Well, I'm okay with it. I don't have to look at myself. That's all right. But it's been a lot of fun. You know, my artist career, God called me into full-time ministry, and I kind of ran from that for a minute, longer than a minute. I tried to talk him out of it, you know, because I was living my dream. I was playing on lots of records, and finally, you know, I'd worked so hard to get to this place, and I felt God's call on my life to be in ministry, and I didn't realize that God could work it out to where I could do both. I thought, well, if I do this, I'm going to lose all my accounts in the studio. But anyway, make a long story short, when I finally gave in, because I just didn't have peace. I had everything going in life that was good, a great family, everything. But when I finally said yes, there was a peace that I can't explain. And God has opened a lot of doors. My first solo record came out in 2005. Well, that's not true, 2004, but that was before I was touring. It was a hymns record called If You Can Hear What I See that I did for Spring Hill. With Phil Johnson producing. Phil and I did that record together, and that was a lot of fun. And then we did a Christmas record, instrumental, to follow it up. But my first vocal record came out in 2005. It's called There's No Place Love Can't Reach. And that album, we charted 4 songs from that album right out of the gate. And it's just really, really neat how I was accepted. But it really kind of broke for me in 2006 when I started touring with Bill and the vocal band and the Homecoming friends. And that was a great launching pad. I did that for 6 years, and so many wonderful memories from that. I remember when Anthony passed away, and I got the news about that. I'll never forget saying to my wife, I feel so sorry for whoever it is that takes his place. That's what I said. Never forget that.
Yeah.
Little did I know that somebody would be me.
Wow.
But Bill was amazing. I mean, he is amazing. He's just a great mentor. And he understands his audience like nobody else I've ever been around. He is he's all about everybody winning every night. He wants everybody to win. And he wants the concert experience to be something that everybody remembers. And so I did that, like I say, for 6 years. And then my kids were getting older, and it was just getting hard to be home for things that were important that the kids were doing. And so, every time somebody leaves something, everybody wants to make a big deal. Well, somebody's mad at somebody, or they don't get along, or blah, 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 blah. Well, in my case, that wasn't the case. It was just time. It was just another season. And Bill and I, we talk more than we ever have. I mean, there was no animosity, no nothing. There was no reason. It was just time. And they have a great piano player by the name of Matthew Holt, who is, he is so good and such a nice guy too. And so they didn't lose anything. And it's funny how things have kind of come full circle. Now I'm producing the vocal band, and the new album is called Good Things Take Time, and it's really an amazing piece of work. The guys who are in the vocal band now: Reggie Smith, Wes Hampton, Adam Crabb, Todd Suttles, and Bill, of course. And I've never seen a group of guys that cheer for each other more, get along better. This is a great team. And again, they're all about the message, and it's been a lot of fun working with them. But my artist thing is still happening. We do about 120 dates a year in churches, and little churches, medium churches, mega churches, wherever God opens the door. We do some theaters, we do some festivals, we do wherever it takes us. And my latest album has been out for almost a year now, called Love, 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 and we were up. It was up for a Grammy. Got to take my wife and my two oldest children to the Grammys. The first time I was nominated for a Grammy, my wife went, and my manager and his wife went. So this time I wanted to take two of the children, and then next time, if we ever get nominated again, I told Ashton, my little one, I'll take him and I'll take my mom. But that was a really fun experience for everybody, and the first single did really well, and it's the current single is a thing called Set Your House in Order with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Absolutely.
I love those guys.
Hand clapping, foot stomping, Southern kind of romp.
And I've worked with those guys for the last, 10, 15 years on their records, and grew up being an Oaks fan. And I was telling you off air, I don't know of any other business that you can have someone that you hold in such high esteem when you're a child, and you just long to meet that person and ask that person questions or just shake their hand, and then when you're an adult, you're working with them.
Wow, yeah, right?
I mean, for this record with the vocal band, Gloria, Bill, and I wrote 3 of the songs. Mm-hmm. Actually, 2 of the songs. I wrote one of the songs with Suzanne. But to meet them was something, but to be producing something for them and to be writing with such legends, and I don't know, it's just kind of
amazing.
A dream come true for this country boy from Alabama.
Wow. Well, before I got over here to your home to record with you today, I made a little phone call, and I have a little something for you. Go back about 10 years.
Yeah.
And you and Buddy Green
I love him.
Are walking through Belfast, Ireland. He was your C&I dog.
He was
that day.
Yeah.
Take me back to that day. What was that like for you?
Oh, well, first of all, I love Belfast. It's one of my favorite cities. And Buddy and I, we rode the Ferris wheel.
That's what he said.
We did all this stuff. We were like tourists.
Yeah.
And it was raining, and it was just yucky. We were like, we're going to do this. This is us doing this right now. We're going to do this. Buddy and I used to live in the same neighborhood till they kicked me out. Buddy and
violating HOA or what?
Yeah, they had me kicked out. But Buddy Green is one of my favorite people on this planet, and he and I have sat out here on this very porch right here and tried to solve all the problems of the world.
There you go.
But I don't know of many people who are as tuned in and really listening to the voice of God, and really has such a great understanding of the Word, and he's so wise. I just love being around Buddy because he's a really good reality check for me.
He is.
He's such a talented guy, but you'd never know it to meet him. I mean, you'd never know that he had that kind of talent.
I know,
just
right?
Normal, goofy, just like we all are. But he's so good. So anyway, yeah, that was fun. Belfast was fun. Going to Europe, that's a whole different experience, going over there, and how the people listen to music is different. I remember playing one of the rooms in London, and it was so amazing because here in America, people see music more than they hear it. But over there, they really still listen. And I remember playing a ballad, just me alone from the piano. And I remember thinking, I could never get away with this in America. Because I did some different songs than I normally do, songs that are really deep and everything. And this is not a knock to our American audience, but they've just been they've learned, because of all the bells and whistles, they've learned to see music, not really listen to it. Now, I'm not talking about everybody, but as a whole. And so we have to gear what we do live to that mindset. But I remember you could hear a pin drop. I mean, no movement at all. It was just like you had them in the palm of your hand, and I was just singing this song, and I just remember, man, this is what it's all about. I know tonight, if it never happens again, I know tonight this message is getting past the front row.
Yeah, so talking to Buddy about that day in Belfast, you guys had such a great time. He was your C&I dog, he said, your guide dog, and y'all wound up on the Ferris wheel. But he also, a couple of things about that. He told me two things. He really said you're one of his favorite people. And that was the first time off stage that you guys got to really have some deeper conversation, and it was a favorite memory for him. And he also told me that you do some pretty good imitations of some folks.
Well, I think, when I worked with the great Porter Wagoner for many years, and played the Opry with him, and even before that, we were friends, worked in the studio, and I have always done an imitation of him, That's not somebody, but people love it. They love it. He was such a personality. And I remember one of the first times he introduced me to Bill Anderson, the first time I played the Opry.
Whispering Bill. And he said, now, Bill, you need to hear this fella do me. It's the most amazing thing you've ever heard in your life. And Bill said, well, doesn't that make you feel a little odd that he can imitate? He said, no, man, it keeps me hot on Music Row. And I thought that was such a great comeback. I remember playing the Opry with him the very first night. It was at the Ryman, because the Opry moves to the Ryman for the winter months and then moves back to the Big House for the spring and summer and fall. And but I remember being so excited about getting to play the Opry with Porter that I forgot to get my wife and my mom tickets. Yeah, and it was sold out because it was a big night. No. And they had a lot of great acts on that night. And the Ryman doesn't seat near as many as the Big House does. And so anyway, I called Porter on Saturday morning, and I told him my predicament. And he said, well, Halls, let me call you back 30 minutes, see what I can do. And he called me in 30 minutes. He said, I got you 4 tickets. That's what you needed? And I said, Porter, that's amazing. How in the world did you get 4 tickets for a sold-out show at the Ryman the day of the show? He said, oh, son, it was easy. I just called him up, said, hello, this Porter Wagoner, and I need 4 tickets for the show tonight. And the lady on the other end of the phone said, well, I wished I could help you, but we don't have no more tickets. I said, do you mean you don't have any tickets at all? She said, no. Said, we're totally sold out for the night. And I said, you mean if the President of the United States was to call you up and say he needed 4 tickets, you tell him you didn't have no more? She said, well, I guess if the president was to call, we could probably find 4 tickets. I said, well, he ain't coming. Give me his 4. That's a true story. So I was around him so much that I can kind of channel him, what he would say in different situations, because I've been with him. And so that's a pretty popular thing in the studios. It's a good tension reliever. You know? A lot of those kinds of things. But yeah, I grew up loving baseball announcers and all these different people, and I kind of,
I was fun at parties because I could imitate different people. But I guess my Porter Wagoner in Nashville is probably my most popular one.
Pretty good, man. Pretty accurate. I grew up on Porter and Dolly.
An anchor of diamonds I'd offer to you. Solid gold mansion, an airplane or two. Yeah. Teardrops for pennies.
Teardrops for pennies.
Dolly's amazing, too. She's a real sweet lady. And, people say, who's your favorite person you've ever worked with? I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, I've worked with everybody from James Taylor to George Strait and everybody in between. And they're all amazing. I remember meeting Lionel Richie. He was somebody that I really admired as a kid because the Commodores were from Tuskegee, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved him because he played piano and he sang. And meeting him, getting to play on something for him was a dream. I've had so many dream come true moments, in my life. And everybody pretty much... you're always afraid if you meet a hero, you're going to be disappointed. Oh, what if they're not cool? But I have to say that pretty much everybody has been way cooler than I even thought possible. There's just a lot of really good people who do what we do, and so I'm really grateful to be a part of this sweet Nashville music community that stretches all over the world. Really,
it's so amazing. So, what would you say? To someone who's not in the community, hadn't had these dream come true moments, but yet they have their own dreams as songwriters, performers, whatever, what would you say to them?
Well, when I go speak at Belmont, and they'll have me come speak from time to time to their commercial music majors, their music business majors, and I always tell them, the first thing I say to them is, if you're sitting in this room and you think, well, if this music thing doesn't happen, I've got a plan B, and that plan B is whatever. I always tell them, then if you've got a plan B, that's what you should do. Because the only way with the business, I would really hate to be a young kid coming into the business right now. It's so much harder than it was. And we talked about some of the reasons earlier. There's just not the money, and there's more people and less spots and all those things. But I tell them, if you can't live without playing and singing music and you do it for free, that's the only way you need to keep on pursuing a career in music, because most likely you're going to do it for free for a very long time. But if you can't live without it, then you're the right person to go for it. And I really honestly believe that everybody gets a shot of some kind. They all get a shot to move up one rung on the ladder, And you just pray that God will allow you to make the most of it you possibly can. I got chances. People put it on the line for me. They said, hey, you ought to hear this kid. He's pretty good. And I have done that for young people. I love mentoring young kids because somebody did that for me, and I'm so grateful. But if somebody's going to put their name on the line for you because it's their reputation, but it's up to you. They can't make it happen for you. It's up to you to make it happen. And so I just always encourage people, man, if you can't live without it, then get after it. And don't let any time go without really digging in and getting after it and doing whatever you got to do. And in my case, I always try to surround myself with people who are better than me. When I'm writing a song, when I have an idea for a song, I call guys and girls that I know are better songwriters than me, and get them in a room and say, okay, I'm going to ride your coattails. Let's get this song done.
Yeah,
I've got this idea. There's a song on my new record that I'm really, really proud of. It speaks to a personal situation in our family. And many families have members of their families who are going through early stages or maybe even late stages of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And so there's a song on my album called Remember For Me that on my Love, Love, Love album that speaks to that. And it's a very encouraging song. I wrote it, I wanted us to write it from the point of view of the person who has the disease and what they would say to us if they could. And I think writing it that way, I know it brought comfort to me. And I think it's brought a lot of encouragement, hope, comfort to those who have heard it in concert, those who have downloaded it and bought it. And we continue to get real positive feedback from the video that we use in our concerts and the song itself. But again, you want to write a song, you may have a big idea, but I always now the song I wrote for my wife, which may be one of the best songs I've ever written, If They Could See You Through My Eyes, I had a couple people help me with that, but that I basically, I was the driver on that. There's always somebody who's really they get on a good run, and you don't want to hold them back. If they're involved and engaged and love the idea and excited about the idea, there's no egos when you're writing. You just get in there and dig and work at it till you come up with something. And you might get it in an hour. It may take a couple of times, 3 times getting together to get it. And sometimes you think, this seemed like a good idea at the time, but maybe this idea is not ready yet. Maybe it's not. So it's not that that's a fail. It's just, we're all learning and we're figuring it out. And I think, maybe this is a conversation for another podcast, but I think people get discouraged when they hear so much junk. There's a lot of bad songs being played, a lot of bad songs because the quotas are so high and the demand is so high. But the great songs will stay around. They'll stick around. There were bad songs being written in the 70s and 80s too, in the 90s. But you don't hear those anymore, but you do hear the good ones. And so I believe that songwriters in Nashville, and I'm just saying Nashville because this is where I live, but I think we live in a town with some of the greatest songwriters ever. And, you got to write. I know from my point of view, I've written some bad ones, but I've also written some good ones, and I think you got to write a few bad ones to get a good one.
Yeah, right?
So it's not always a win, but you just got to stay in the game. And thank God they've let me stay in the game. I love what I do. I love playing and singing. I love traveling. I love producing. And I'm just grateful to be, like I said, a part of this great Nashville music community. I think we live in a town with the greatest musicians in the world.
Gordon, man, this has been rich. Thank you so much for your time here on the show. And give us a real quick look at what's coming up for you in your touring. Your current record, a single. What's going on with all that? Yeah,
well, Love, Love, Love. The album is still out, and the current single, Set Your House in Order, is doing well. We're going to be traveling everywhere, so go to my website, gordonmote.com, see if we're going to be anywhere close to you. We're constantly adding dates, so you can't just check it once and give up. You got to keep looking at it so you'll know where we're going to be. You can follow me on Twitter at Gordon Mote. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. We love to hear from you. You can email me, gordon@gordonmote.com, or go to my website and just fill out the contact form. But we really love to hear from you, and we'd love to get your feedback on the podcast. I'm going to subscribe to this. I wasn't aware of this podcast. I'm sure a lot of people are not aware, but we got to keep getting the word out. But I love what you're doing, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. And you got a lot of really cool people on here. I can't believe you had me on with all these great personalities, man. I'm honored, and I respect you and all you've done, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thanks, Gordon, man. Well, the privilege and honor is all mine. I've loved hanging out with you on your porch. We got to shut this thing down. I need another cup of coffee.
I hear you, bro. Me too. Hey, we'll turn the fans back on. How about that?
Let's do it. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
God bless everybody. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks, Gordon.
Hey, what a fantastic show today. I hope you caught all the value bombs that were dropped on this one and that you'll begin to immediately incorporate them into your songwriting. You know, you can get even more valuable songwriting tools and inspiration when you join NCS membership. You can become a part of a growing community of songwriters from around the world and tap into some of the most powerful resources available to step you up in your songwriting destiny. Check out NCS membership now at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and get ready for some exponential power to help you fulfill your call to write. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.